Good morning, everyone. I'm on my way now to somewhere I've been dreading to go. I've been delaying this since October the 7th. I just haven't felt that I've been able to stomach seeing what happened, or at least recounting what happened. So I'm on my way now to, first of all, Sderot. We're going to be seeing Gaza Envelope, Oz, and perhaps the site where the Supernova Festival was. As I said, it's hard. I've been delaying it. I've been invited a number of times to go and see, and I've been really afraid as to how I'm going to react to it. Which might seem or sound a bit weird to many of you, given online I seem to be able to deal with a lot of stuff, a lot of anti-Semitism, and I've got a thick skin when it comes to that. But when it comes to hearing about even stories of suffering and the horrendous things that happened, and to actually see things, I just don't know how I'm going to react. But I'm going to try to do the best that I can and to document it. I know many people have been documenting it on social media. Try to give my raw, unedited, as much as possible, commentary, and get the word out, because no matter how I feel and how hard it is, the most important thing is to get the word out as to what happened.
Only Englishman in the village. Generally I help the mayor's office and the municipality dealing with sport, particularly for the kids, which is a massive thing here, because the kids, 20 years of troubles, there's a lot of issues, anxiety, depression, the obesity rates here with the kids are higher than they should be. So that's my general area of what I do when I'm in Sderot. But obviously because of the war, groups are constantly coming, and me and my wife were prepared to come back. We were in Netanya for a while, but we came back. So basically I'm now helping with this as much as I can.
So here I am in Sderot, and behind me is a site that used to be the Sderot police station, which was completely destroyed. And Clive from Sderot just told us how, the story of what happened that morning, how the terrorists came in, murdered civilians and policemen, engaged in gun battles. Thankfully, all the terrorists were eventually killed and subdued, but the cost was great.
We go to the neighborhood. We go out and we are shooting. We are and I remember I said, "Wow, IDF, very good. Why we have the shooting?" But I don't hear a siren. I don't see a rocket. I go to the neighborhood. So I go to the neighborhood. I knock on the door, and we have rule in Sderot. When you have siren, all the door is open. You know why? Because if somebody go to the street, he can go to the shelter. So we knock on the door, nobody answer. We knock and he said, hello, we have a lot of siren, open the door, please. And the neighborhood opened the door and said, why you be outside? We have a lot of terrorists on the street. When I heard this, I forgot to say something. I'm keeping Shabbat, okay? And I don't have mobile. And it's holiday and Shabbat, and I don't take nothing. Okay, we go to the shelter neighborhood, and we open the mobile, and we see a lot of terrorists. You see the movie? Come to Sderot, come to the police station. How many terrorists come? 5, 10. Okay, all the terrorists there. After 3 hours, we come back home, and everything in control. Come back home, because it's evening, and they need to sleep, and life, it's life, the life is like this. And we come back, and we hear again a lot of siren. We run to the shelter, and when we be in the shelter, somebody tried to open the door on the house. After this, I understand the picture. I crawl. I remember this. I crawl to the kitchen. I take a big knife. I come back to the shelter. All the electric fall, and we close everything because it's dangerous to be with light or something. And we sit on the shelter, on the floor, with a knife, and we need to be quiet. And adults, all the time, remember we have post-trauma. she's all the time, Mommy, why I need to be quiet? What's happened? Why I need to? And I said, Adele, shh, you cannot speak. And I feel panic because if she speaks, the terrorist here, and you know the story. And all the time she asked me, and I remember I take Adele and I put my like this because I'm afraid. We sit like this 10 hours and pray, because if some people come, what we can do? Some woman with the black, it's a big story now, but it's a black dress.
Yeah.
She's raped a lot of time. Husband see everything, and after this, he burning, the terrorist burning. And when the bodies, you see the bodies, she be like this. And it's a one story. And you know, in the party, the Zaka told me, תגיד שמצאו שם מלא אברי מין קטועים. זה אחד הדברים שהכי מצאו שם.
They found a lot of, how can I put it, dismembered sexual organs.
You understand the monster? And I remember more story about one girl, she's 30 years old. She be naked after she raped and she's shoot on the head. One more story, family, Sid family. The father without eyes, the mother, he cut the breast. He has something with breast. All the time he think it's a ball, and you know, when we have helmet, camera helmet, terrorist, and all the time he take breast and התמסרו עם זה. כאילו, היה להם קטע להתמסר עם כזה. Yeah. You understand? And he take babies and cut the head. Babies. And after this, he drink coke and left. This is we see in the movie. You understand?
They murdered the people, this family. There is only one kid that stay alive. It's the guy that went for jogging and was on the other side. This is the story of Zohar family that were in this house. Then they went to the other house, but this family, they were abroad, they were not here, and then they saw the beautiful house at the end of this block, and they decided to go there. They found the family, they entered the shelter room, and in this family there were the husband, his second wife, and 3 kids. They took the older one and they asked him to go with them to other families to ask them to open the doors. And there was one family that opened their shelter room for the terrorists, and they also took them to the same house over there. At the end of this family, they killed they murdered actually the guy from this family and his wife. They took the 2 daughters and the husband from the 3rd family, from the other family to Gaza. They kidnapped them. They went later on to another house. In this house there was a gentleman with a gun, and he decided that he's going to fight and to save his wife, his kids, and himself, and he did it very well. As much that we know now, he killed 14 terrorists, and he is and his family, they are okay. This is what happened in this side of the kibbutz. In the other side of the kibbutz, there were the soldiers that really gave a fight to the terrorists, and the situation was a bit better. I want to tell you that all over in the kibbutz. This is a small kibbutz, like 110 families. There were about 100 terrorists, and after that, there came between 200 and 300 bozezim.
Looters.
Okay. So there is almost no house that people didn't get in the kibbutz.
So right behind me, through those trees, if you can see there, that is Gaza. And now we're even closer. Right behind me, if you can see in the distance, that's Gaza. And you can see here, in the distance, we just heard the boom, and you can see there the smoke on the other side of the fence. Another thing I wanted to mention while we're here is how, many people have been coming here. How many people are here now, and how many people have just been flooding into here? Because let's face it, we are the nation of never forget, and we live by that. We won't forget, we don't forget, and we'll never forget.
Okay, so hi everybody, and thank you for being here. My name is Maya, I'm with the IDF spokesperson unit. I'm currently in reserve service, and here with us, I think, I saw in the back, Dean, the international spokesperson of the police, and he'll talk further, I think, as we go. I think that you will agree with me after we walk through the streets of the kibbutz that being here and seeing with your own eyes the horrors and the atrocities that took place here on October 7th is different than seeing it through the lens, or hearing about it, or trying to imagine it. And even as you walk through the streets and you'll see it, and you'll hear some of the stories, see some of the horrors, keeping in mind that this is 90 days after the attack, I don't think you can fully grasp what happened here. Now we're currently standing in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, which is one of the 22 communities, kibbutzes, and points that were infiltrated on October 7th. And excuse me in advance because we're going to repeat this a lot. We are 90 days in. You're going to see a small portion of Kfar Aza, here, a small portion of the stories, unfortunately. Keeping in mind this is one of 22, and this is 90 days after. You won't see the body parts, you won't see the blood, you won't smell the smell of death, which was here for weeks. And yet you will see the horror. Kfar Aza, on the 6th of October, had 950 civilians living here. On the 7th of October and the days following, 63 were murdered here in this kibbutz, 18 were kidnapped into Gaza. Some of them are still in Gaza as we're speaking, 90 days in. 6 were severely injured, and 1 was unaccounted for until a few days ago. We're talking about 10% of the population that was either murdered or kidnapped. Not to mention the trauma, not to mention the ones lightly injured, and not to mention the ones who luckily just weren't here on that Shabbat. Now I'm well aware that today is a Thursday afternoon, 90 days after. But we're gonna try and take it back to that 7th of October, Shabbat morning, a holiday, the last day of Sukkot, 6:30 a.m., an alarming amount of alarms. And what we have to understand is that in the Gaza Envelope in general, and here in the kibbutz, every single house, every single building has a bomb shelter, has a mamad. It's mandatory. In regular times, you have 10 to 15 seconds to enter it. They were used to living under fire, and yet life was beautiful. And I think that even today, you sense how beautiful, and you can only imagine how beautiful it was. So 6:30 a.m., 15 minutes, ongoing alarms, and people are hiding inside their mamads, inside their bomb shelters. Less than 30 minutes later, after the first siren, we're talking about hundreds of terrorists infiltrating this very kibbutz. The estimation is 300 to 400. And they come in very well prepared, unfortunately. They come in by air with gliders, bakais, by land, excuse me, by land with pickup trucks that had machine guns glued on them, set on automat, and with motorbikes, staging screaming in Arabic. They came in with guns, RPGs, grenades, bombs, and they just start shooting. And people are hiding inside their mamads, inside their bomb shelters, just grasping for the hope that they'll survive. And we'll talk a little further about what a mamad is But a mamad is supposed to protect you from bombs, from missiles, not from terrorists who are standing outside your doorstep. If that wasn't enough, they later set a lot of the houses on fire. And when I tell you that they came in very well prepared, they brought gasoline tanks and tires with them from Gaza, and they set the houses on fire. People were either shot and then burned, or burned alive, or would inhale the smoke from the fire, step outside usually through the window of the mamad, where they'll be met with a terrorist who murders them or kidnaps them. That's the reality. And even though we're 90 days in, we're gonna go inside. But in a sense, here in Kfar Aza and in the nearby area, time stands still. You're gonna see the Sukkot still standing. We're almost 3 months after, we're 90 days in, and the Sukkot are still standing. This is not a movie scene. It's not a movie set. It's not AI. It's not something that we built so people will come and see it. This is the reality. This is what happened here. Time stands still here. And we also see the signs for the elections of Phil Lipstein. And we'll talk about him, but he was the head of the regional council, an amazing man that was murdered here, just outside his house. And it was about to be re-election time. And you still see the signs for his elections. He's no longer here, but his signs are. Again, time stands still. We're gonna go inside.
Walking through Kfar Aza, where time has stood still, like in all these other communities, and we see even the bullet holes still in the walls.
This house is the Tamari family house. It's the house where Razi Tamari, a close friend of mine, grew up. And this is also where both her parents, Lili and Rami Tamari, Zichronam Livracha, were murdered here on the 7th of October. They were hiding inside the mamad, the bomb shelter, which was, by the way, Razi's childhood room. The walls were painted pink. You can only imagine what it looks like right now. Her father was armed with his own personal gun and used both magazines. We see on the door of the mamad the gunshots from inside and outside. He was trying to fight them off, but unfortunately simply couldn't. We lost contact with him at around 12 p.m. Her mother managed to text beforehand that her father was shot, but we don't know what happened. We don't know who was shot first, if they were shot to death or burnt while still alive. We just don't know. And it took 3 weeks to identify the bodies. 3 weeks. The news about her dad came a few days before the news about her mom, and the news about her mom came less than 2 hours before her 26th birthday. That's the birthday present she got. It's not even my story to share, but it's one that's obviously closer to my heart. But unfortunately, the atrocities of October 7th have touched every single Israeli, because everybody knows somebody. I think they've touched all of the Jews around the world. But this matter should concern the world. This should concern the world. Because me, Maya, I do not want to live in a world, in a reality, where this is okay and people are standing by or are supporting it. This is not okay. On October 6th, there was a ceasefire. And on October 7th, Hamas chose to break it. We're talking about raping, sexual assault, beheading, cutting off ligaments, tying the hands behind the backs with plastic handcuffs of innocent peace-seeking civilians. Civilians that were here living their lives less than a mile away from Gaza because they believed in peace and worked towards peace. And they were butchered in their houses. And it did not matter if it was women, elderly, children. It didn't matter. And we're 90 days in, and we still have 129 hostages that were kidnapped from their houses in Gaza. And we need to bring them back. And the world needs to know and to see and to understand what took place here. And you can't even begin to understand or grasp it through the screen, through the camera lens, through hearing stories. You're here now. You see it. You feel it. This is not okay.
I'm right in front of one of the burnt out houses, which you can see behind me. The destruction is still for all to see. As I said in my last video, time truly stood still here. Still walking through Kibbutz Kfar Aza. Again, the destruction is left here. It's like a living museum of destruction. It's a ghost town. You hear the buzzing above. of drones, helicopters and the like. But here, there's this sort of morbid peace about the place. I don't want to say peace, but the quiet, the silence. It's like death is all around you.
We're now stepping into the Dor Tzair, the next generation neighborhood. This is where the young people of the kibbutz resided. People in their 20s, 30 max, that were just here living their lives. Each and every apartment housed 1 to 2 people. The bedroom was the mamad, the bomb shelter. Small living room, small kitchen, a small bathroom, and a garden. And this is one of the only places, I think, in my opinion, where you can't see how beautiful it was. Because if you'd ask the residents of the kibbutz, they'll tell you that this was the most beautiful neighborhood in the kibbutz. They had a competition who had the most beautiful garden. They got a budget from the kibbutz for the pergolas and to decorate the gardens. Almost every single person who lived here and was here on the 7th was either murdered or kidnapped. We're gonna see soon, we're gonna see the infiltration points, and we're very close to the Gazan border, to the back gate of the kibbutz, which was one of the main infiltration points. So this is why this area was impacted so severely. I'm gonna invite you to just walk around. We're not stepping into any of the houses. Where you see the signs with the red writing, it means they were murdered. The ones with the yellow writing means they were kidnapped. And we're gonna stop at a point at one house here.
We're looking at more of the destruction. Just have a look at the floor. You can gather a lot about the people that lived here. You see here that there was a dog. They had a dog. See the dog toy, the dog brush. Oh, this is so painful.
Just want to introduce myself again. My name is Dean Elston. I'm the spokesperson for the Israel Police. My job is to come up with words, and Maya and I always talk about it. It's funny because we relive October 7th over and over again since October 7th. And I have to come up with new words, and I have to come up with new ways, because not everybody is Israeli and not everybody's Jewish. And they come here and they see, and we say the word hasbara in Israel, and I want to throw that word out of the window somewhere, because what we've been doing since October 7th hasn't been hasbara. We've been convincing people. We've had to stand in front of houses where people were kidnapped, where people woke up on Saturday morning and their entire world flipped upside down. Hamas terrorists came inside, they grabbed them and they pulled them back into Gaza. Parents lost their kids on October 7th. Children lost their fathers, their mothers. I don't even know how to begin where everything started or how everything happened. The first 3 months, the first 90 days, really, they just blended together. Time has no meaning anymore. I've had to bring the press to Shura, which is the body collection site, where we split it between the IDF and police, and the IDF were identifying soldiers and the police were identifying the civilians. And a lot of people don't realize that the civilians weren't coming in full body bags. The civilians were coming in pieces, small bags. Because we would get a head with an axe in it. We would get an arm that was completely shredded. We would get bodies that were charred so badly that we can only identify them by putting in a CT scan, and we would see 2 spines melded together of a parent that was holding a toddler. That's what happened on October 7th. My job, Maya's job, all of our jobs, has been to convince the world since October 7th what took place here. But why? Why? Hamas came in with their own cameras to film what they did. Hamas's first public statement after October 7th was saying, this is just a rehearsal. And yet here we are, 90 days after. I can't give you the smell that was in the air, the smell that got stuck in our noses and we couldn't breathe. It was stuck in our brain. We had to take off our clothes before we went into our homes. I can't pass to you the fear of the parents that were on the other side of this kibbutz, knowing their kids were right here and what was happening to them. I wish I could. I wish, because I want to give you all the tools that I can possibly give for you guys to do your job better. We all have a responsibility here. How in the world is anyone supposed to stand with us? Why is no one from the international media talking about the Arab Muslims that were killed on October 7th, the Christians that were killed on October 7th, those abducted that weren't even Israeli, that were at the Nova Music Festival? No one's speaking about them. Why? We all have a purpose in this war. We have our guys in Gaza right now. They're keeping the promise of never again. At the Washington rally, there was a woman, she was holding up a girl, actually, she was holding up a sign, 2 pictures. Maybe some of you guys saw it. One was a older woman, and she said, "This is my grandmother, she's a Holocaust survivor. She's my hero." Underneath was a picture of her brother in IDF uniform. She said, "This is my new hero. He's in Gaza right now." My grandmother said never again. My brother is keeping that promise of never again. Never again is right now. And maybe our soldiers in Gaza are fighting in combat boots, but you guys are no less important. You guys have such a critical role here because you need to wake the world up. Emily is waiting to get out of Gaza. Her mom was just here right now. We were talking, and we're talking about her daughter in there, and she doesn't even like talking about it because she can't think of what's happening to her daughter right now in Gaza. And that's just her. This is one kibbutz. This is one of 22 kibbutzim. This doesn't include the music festival grounds where over 300, almost 400 people died, were slaughtered. Not died, slaughtered there. Where 17 police officers died because they were trying to save as many lives as possible. They didn't care about their families back home. They were just trying to get these kids out of there. It doesn't count the 59 police officers in total. They gave their lives. They did whatever it took so that others can live. I can speak for days. I really can. About the bodies in Shula, about the media, about the people coming here, about the families that were here. I met with all kinds of backlash of team, but this is resistance. Okay, what did a 10-month-old baby do in its 10 months of living to be victim to the Hamas attacks in the name of resistance? A 10-month-old baby. What did the women do at the music festival to have their breasts cut off and the men have their genitals cut off and have it all videotaped? Have their bodies burned alive? Have pregnant women cut open? Guys, the things that happen here are so sick. This is not a Netflix show and it's not a cable news show. None of that. No, this is real life. When you're walking around here, it needs to feel like Auschwitz. You shouldn't be able to breathe because what happened here, there's blood in this floor right now.
That's right.
People ran for their lives. I don't like comparing the Holocaust, but this was something. People were burned alive. Children were killed. There's 129 people right now waiting to be rescued inside of Gaza. There's 4 more people that we assume are most likely dead that have been waiting in there for years. This war, it's not a war of religion. And it's not Jews against Palestinians or Israelis against Palestinians. This is the world, humanity, against terrorism. Hamas came after all of us on October 7th. And for me and Maya, it's still October 7th. We bring groups here multiple times a day. We're so emotionally attached to the families, to the justice that needs to be served. And that's why you guys are here. Because you have the responsibility now to take everything you've seen. I can't give you the feelings and I can't give you all the words and all the explanations and everything that they went through. But when I saw a father in Mefasim, not too far from here, on the surveillance cameras inside of his house when the terrorists were infiltrating, and he took his 2 boys into the bomb shelter, and the terrorists came around the corner and threw the grenade inside of the bomb shelter, and you see the father jump on top of the grenade, I can't give you that feeling. I can't give you the feeling of the 2 boys that then ran outside and their faces are completely covered in their father's blood. And they run into their kitchen and they're sitting in their kitchen and the terrorist walks inside and opens the refrigerator and starts drinking cola. in front of the kids, telling them to shut up. How do I explain that? How do I tell the 18 to 24 in America that this has nothing to do with whatever propaganda Hamas instilled into you from your TikTok videos and this and that? This was hate and this was evil. Those boys ran out of that house. But when the footage kept rolling, we saw the mother return and she saw her husband on the floor in pieces. One story, one kibbutz, one house. We'll stand here for days if it was up to me. The border fence from Gaza is right behind this house right here. That's the fence. And Hamas came in from the air, and they came in from the land with pickup trucks, with 50 caliber machine guns mounted onto the pickup trucks, and the bullets are this big. As they were shooting, they were taking out body pieces off of people. And when the first responders came in the beginning hours to try to rescue lives, and when Zaka came and everybody started trying to collect the wounded and the dead, they were victim too. Because underneath these bodies were pressure plates. So that when the first responders come to try to save a life, to try to bring them to the hospital or collect a corpse, they went with them. When the bodies got to Shula, every day there was another alert that everyone had to evacuate, and the bomb disposal unit had to go inside because they shoved a grenade inside of bodies. If you guys haven't gotten it yet by what I said, I don't know what's going to get it to you, but
Here spread throughout the lanes of where the young people resided. And they came in from this back gate of the kibbutz. Now it was replaced about 3 weeks ago. But just behind it to the right, you will see the former one where they bombarded through and did what they did. Back there in the background is Gaza. Remember I told you we're less than a mile away from Gaza? That's Gaza. That's Sajaya. That's how close we are, and this is how safe they felt. I want to talk to you about the second wave. We're talking about 2 to 3 hours later, and I do not know what the correct terminology is here. I don't know how I should refer to them. Regular Gazan civilians, I don't know.
I'm going to say they're terrorists. Terrorists, just talking about terrorists right now.
But these Gazans that were not associated or affiliated with Hamas come in here and they loot. I'm gonna ask you to please try and imagine in your mind the situation on ground is unimaginable, because we're talking about body parts. Bodies beheaded, raped, sexually assaulted, set on fire. This is the situation on ground. And while this is going on, these people come in here, some of them by foot or with motorbikes or motorcycles or on donkeys even. And they come in and they loot, they take their things. Quite a few of them did the atrocious acts. Did the murdering, the kidnapping, the raping, the sexual assaults. And they go back to Gaza. The mess you see outside the houses, and again folks, this is 90 days after. It's after it's been cleared. It seems better, if we can call it better than what it was. But the mess that you see outside the apartments, it was not done by us. Most of it wasn't even done by the terrorists, it was done by those Gazans that came here to loot.
Going inside one of the houses here. One can only imagine what took place here. So here I am on the bus after a very long day visiting these communities, seeing things, getting a feel for things which you really can't get a full feel of from the videos that you see and from the stories, but just to be there and feel the heaviness in the air is something. I'm I still have to process. It's been a draining day. I ran out of battery. My phone ran out of battery, and David, also have run out of battery. I implore all of you in Israel to do this at some point if you can. It's hard. It's really hard, but it's necessary.